Welcome to Movie Recall. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2016 movie Tunnel. It's time to recall, let's get started, turn on subtitles, and spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we see our main character named Lee Jung-soo. He is on his way to somewhere. He makes a stop at a gas station, and when he is getting refilled, a deaf man ends up bumping into his car and Lee does not like it. The man, however, apologizes to him and goes on to give 2 bottles of water as a token of respect. As he hits the road, he has to go through a big tunnel. When he is right in the middle of the tunnel, he starts hearing weird noises and that bums him out right away. He then tries to speed up so that he can get out of the tunnel as soon as possible, but everything around him starts to shake, and the next thing we see, all the lights go off. He is now scared and tries to speed up even more to get out of the tunnel, but as he does that, the tunnel roof starts to break and he is now stuck in there. He is barely able to move in his car because the car is also broken. Things keep falling for a long time, and even his phone is broken. When the boulders finally stop dropping, he goes on to call the rescue team right away. He goes on to tell them that the whole tunnel has collapsed and he is badly stuck, adding that he is barely able to move in his car. They right away get there to rescue him, and this is when we are shown the condition of the tunnel from the outside. It is nothing but a big pile of boulders and dust. It turns out, a big part of the giant mountains has fallen on the tunnel, making it to collapse all the way. Lee's wife Si-hyun goes on to watch the news channel, and she is scared for her husband's life. She right away goes on to call him, and he tells her that he is alright. He has not gotten hurt or anything, he is just stuck in his car. The authorities then go on to call Lee and ask him how long till he will be able to survive in there. They ask him about the food supplies he has and the water too. He goes on to ask them how much time will they take to get him out of there because they have not told him anything so far. They then go on to tell him that it is going to take days before they get to him because the whole tunnel has collapsed. Lee is talking to a news channel as they go on to ask him these questions. Captain Kang, who is leading this tunnel operation, goes on to berate the people from the news channel for talking to Lee and worrying him even further. Captain Lang goes on to say that if he got scared by these things and has heart attacks, then these news channels will be responsible for that because they are the ones telling him things that could make him lose hope. He goes on to tell the reporters that if they tried contacting Lee again, he will make sure to send them to jail. Captain Kang then himself goes on to contact Lee, and Lee has just one question for him. He asks him how much time they are going to take to get him out of this place. The captain goes on to tell him to keep himself calm and asks him about the food and stuff. This food question only means one thing, and that is that it's going to take a lot of time to get him out of there. Captain Kang finally tells him that it could take him 7 days to get him out of there, and he is going to have to use that water till 7 days. They also go on to tell him to switch off his phone so that the battery does not go out. Captain tells him to turn his phone on only at 12 p.m. so they know what kind of condition he is in. Lee receives another call from his wife who is crying, but Lee tells her to stay calm, adding that he will be out of there soon. Captain Kang then goes on to form a whole rescue team whose duty it is to get Lee out of the tunnel alive. They go on to send a drone into the tunnel to get to know how much of the tunnel is broken and how much of it is damaged. The drone, however, loses signal after it goes in for a considerable distance. They now have no choice but to get inside the tunnel. Kang then goes on to enter the tunnel with one of his men, and as they move forward, they see a lot of rubble. Kang's man ends up pushing the horn button by mistake, and Lee hears this horn. He goes on to call the captain, asking him if they are there to rescue him. Kang goes on to ask him if he actually heard their horn. They then honk a few more times just to make sure that the horn Lee heard was theirs, and it turns out to be theirs. They now know about his pinpoint location, but as they stand there, the remaining part of the tunnel starts to break, and they barely manage to get out of there alive. They come up with another plan. Captain goes on to say that if they go through the tunnel's rubble, it will take them God knows how many days, so they decide to get a big excavation machine to drill a hole right in the place where they think Lee is stuck. Lee then goes on to hear a noise coming, due to which he gets alerted right away, knowing that there is someone else nearby. He can hear someone approaching, and as he looks on, it turns out to be a dog. Lee takes a close look at the dog and understands that this is a pet dog, which means there is definitely another person stuck nearby. Lee then gets out of his car to see what is out there, and as he moves forward with a small torchlight, he sees a girl stuck in her car. She is injured as a giant boulder has almost crushed her car. Lee then tries his best to move the boulder away, but it is too heavy and Lee is too weak. She goes on to introduce herself as Mina and asks Lee if he has some water. She tells Lee that she has not been able to feel her foot, and Lee tells her to stay calm and hopeful, adding that a rescue team will be getting there soon. When Lee tells her that his phone still has a battery left, she requests him to let her make a phone call to her mother, and when she calls her, she asks her to forgive her for taking her car without permission, adding that when she gets out of the tunnel, she will find some work soon. On the other hand, we see Lee's wife, who is not able to sleep at night and has heard the news channel on her TV all the time to stay updated with the rescue mission. It is told by the reporters that Lee is not the only one stuck there, and they also tell how Lee shared his water with the other girl. Lee then gets back to his car and eats some cake, which he bought for his daughter's birthday. He takes a little piece and keeps the rest of it for later. When he goes to sleep, keeping the cake on his side, the dog appears and goes on to eat the whole cake. When Lee wakes up, he is pissed and horrified at the realization that the cake is gone because it was the last hope for him. He goes on to scream in anger, and Mina hears his screams. Later, when he goes to her car, she goes on to ask him why on earth he was screaming, and he lies to her, telling her that he was just having a nightmare. He then goes on to sit in the back seat of her car and sees that she is in pain. She is breathing heavily, and it seems like she is going to die soon. She again goes on to request Lee to give her some water, and this time he hesitates because he thinks that if he gives all the water to her, he won't be having any water to drink. He still goes to his car to get the water, and when he gets back, he sees that the girl is not moving at all. He goes on to try to move the boulder again. This time he is more determined and the boulder is moved. However, the scene is bad as the girl has a whole beam stabbed through her leg, which is why she lost a lot of blood, and now she's dead. Lee is horrified at the scene and angry at himself too for not being able to give a sip of water to the dying person. He then goes on to cover the body of the girl with his coat and comes back to his car. On the other hand, we go on to see on the news where a reporter is reporting how the contractor used bad quality stuff in the construction of this tunnel because all the responsibility was given to a corrupt person. When the girl died, Lee right away goes on to call Kang and straight away asks him till when he will be able to rescue him. Kang, however, tells him that he is sorry because he himself does not know till when his whole team will be able to do the digging. Kang tells him to stay calm and keep waiting a little more. It's been 9 long days since Lee has been stuck there. He is even out of water. Having no water to drink, he goes on to collect his urine to drink so that he is able to survive, but he cannot make himself drink his own urine. After so many days, he is not even able to hear any noise from around. He then hears the sound of dripping water. He sees that there is a hole through which water is dripping. He is now really happy about it. He is so excited that he calls his wife to tell her about it, and she too is really happy to learn that. We then see some media persons speaking to the excavation team. It has been 18 days now. The captain of the team goes on to tell the media reporters that they almost have gotten to the base of the tunnel, and now they are about to get the rescue team into the tunnel to get Lee out of there. They go on to call Lee. Kang tells him that they have found many fans while doing the digging, but Lee tells him that the fan on its head is just like the way it's been. There has been no digging going on around that fan. They right away get to the map and try to check, thinking that they might have been doing the digging in the wrong place. The engineer who designed this tunnel is called right away. He tells them that the map is not right. This map only has 6 fans, whereas he installed 7 fans. It turns out they've been digging in the wrong place for the last 18 days. When Kang goes on to tell this to Lee, he loses it. He screams in anguish. He has now lost all hope because for the last 18 days, he has been waiting for this day, and now they're back at square one. They're gonna be digging for the next 18 days yet again. Lee then goes on to call his wife and tells her that he will not be able to survive in this place anymore, adding that he has had enough. He then apologizes to his wife, and the wife goes on to tell him that he should not accept defeat just like that. Losing heart is not the way to go when someone is in such a condition. She then goes on to tell him that if he thought about dying, she too will commit suicide along with their daughter. After this call, the battery of his phone goes dead. This is the last call they make. It is then shown that the digging is also made difficult by the brutal weather out there as everything is just covered in snow. Kang is pissed at his inferiors for not getting the excavation machine set on the other location in time. There is a meeting going on, and some people in the meeting go on to talk about blasting the rubble away, but Kang is against it. He says that one man is still alive in the tunnel and they cannot kill someone like that. Lee, on the other hand, himself starts moving forward to get close to the rescue team. Due to the brutal weather, one of the men in the rescue team dies, and this makes the situation worse out there. The dead man's mother goes on to yell at Si-hoon, saying that her young son has died while trying to rescue Si-hoon's already dead husband. The authorities then force Si-hoon to sign the papers that if Lee dies in the explosions in those tunnels, they will not be responsible because there is no other way to clear those tunnels now. She then goes to a radio station to talk to her husband, hoping that he might be able to listen to her on the radio. She tells him that no one is coming to save him and that she has already signed the papers, which could mean she signed his death certificate. She asks him to forgive her if he is listening to her. Before the explosion, Kang himself tries to make one last attempt to save Lee. As he moves further, he is about to get to him when he is pulled back by his team as the explosion is about to go off. However, he drops his microphone there, and Lee gets into his car and honks again and again. Kang now knows that he is near Lee. He again tries to go in there, but there is another explosion, and this time, Lee's car is almost fully buried in the rubble, and the next thing we see, the rescue team has gotten there and they are taking Lee out of there on a stretcher. This is when a politician gets there to take a photo with Lee, who is barely moving. Kang sees this and starts shouting at him, telling them that they have no shame. Seeing that, the politician gets scared and moves away. Lee is then taken to the hospital and he is discharged after a few days. In the last scene of the movie, we see him going home with his wife. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.